Yeah. Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like
So we have Nick Bernabe from the March Against Monsanto organization. He also runs the antimedia.org website, and he's a host here Wednesday nights on UCY. So, Nick, you got to see a lot of action yesterday with the Global March, so you could give everyone an update, like as to how successful it was, how your event went down in San Diego. Were there any clashes with police? Did you have any issues with the media? Just whatever you want to talk about would be great. I'm sure a lot of our listeners were out there this weekend, and they've seen all the photos, and it looks like it was a big success.
Yeah, it was actually way bigger than we originally thought. I mean, this whole thing came about from it was actually one of my page admins. I brought Tammy in. She's actually the founder of the March Against Monsanto. I brought her in like maybe 7-8 months ago to my page to help me manage my messages and all my comments and page posts from from the fans of the page. And what I realized was that she was always posting and promoting about, activism and events and, promoting other people's events and things like that. And I was like, I told her, I was like, you got a knack for these organizing these things or helping promote these types of things. I was like, and I wanted to get my page more, I wanted to turn my internet activism into boots on the ground. And a few months later, sure enough, she had the idea for the March Against Monsanto, and she was like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And I was like, hey, let's do it, and it was just an idea, and it just started off slow, and it started building a little bit of momentum, and then when the Monsanto Protection Act got passed, it totally blew up, and we were able to capture all the momentum from the Monsanto Protection Act being passed, all the anger that people had, and we were able to capture all that momentum and turn it into this event. But before the Monsanto Protection Act passed, we had about 200 people RSVP'd to the global event. And then the day after that, it was already up to 5,000. The day after that, it was up to like almost 10,000. And then it just started growing and growing and growing. Our actual turnout, it far exceeded what the Facebook event, the initial, the global event page, the RSVPs, I think, last time I checked, they're at like 35,000, and then there was like 300,000, 400,000 people invited that didn't confirm. But what happened was, as it started getting bigger, we brought on a new organizer that had more experience in organizing local events, Emily Resnick, and she started helping us organize and finding local organizers for each city. And it started growing even more after that, because as each event got created in each city, all the people from those events started inviting all of their friends from their local cities and even from other cities and stuff. And then it started getting bigger and bigger from that point. And then at that point, we started getting contacted by these people in Europe, in Africa, and Asia, and South America, Central America. And we couldn't really deal with it because none of us spoke any other languages besides a little bit of Spanish. But at that point, we brought in these anarchists from Europe. They have a page called A Revolt, Digital Anarchy. They also have a site called arevolt.org, I believe it is. It's either .com or .org. And then these guys really helped us with organizing globally. And then they also had some innovative ideas for organizing in the United States as far as open source organizing, using like paste boards for open source information editing. And then, one of the main keys, and for anybody that's going to do any other events and organizing later on, activism, is it's impossible to centralize an event like this where you try to have just a team of 10, 15 people trying to add all the information. You got to set it up open source and delegate a lot of the data. There's just so much data coming in to organize and add into spreadsheets. You got to delegate that stuff out. And so once we got the formula down, through trial and error, it started coming in a lot easier and a lot more naturally, and the data was going in, and it was being split up by more and more people, and they were able to edit through the Google Docs and any kind of like similar application, and it just started growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and got to a point where we lost track of how many RSVPs, confirmed their word, throughout all these different events that started popping up. And then, even up until Friday, we still had more and more people emailing us, hey, at our event, we just decided to do a march at our event. And
wow.
we made the cutoff like last week, so we weren't even adding more events. So on our official event list, we had well over 400 events and over 55 different countries. But a better estimate would be, just judging by the amount that we weren't able to get on the list, there was probably over between 500 and 600 different events, and probably over 60 countries, maybe around 65 countries. I even heard of one in Serbia, and we didn't even know that there was one being set up in Serbia. So it's like just all these far corners of the world. I saw one in South Africa where you had these African tribal guys that were like dancing with their Monsanto signs, doing like a tribal dance. It was awesome.
Oh my God.
But it's just, our official estimate as far as attendance worldwide is we're estimating around 2 million people actually got involved and participated. And then there was also like an online, for people that couldn't make it out to the marches, we did like an online thing. I mean, even Anonymous got involved, and some of these guys like hacked some of the Monsanto websites, and we got, on Saturday evening when I got home, I had an email of a bunch of contact info for Monsanto executives with emails and phone numbers.
Whoops.
I think you actually sent me one of those emails.
No, I didn't. Wink, wink.
I don't know who initiated them or whatever, but they got out and they ended up on a paste bin, or a pirate bin or whatever, these paste websites where you can paste information anonymously. And they got out, and I'm sure they're getting hell. Well, they're not open. They're probably not open right now, but I'm sure when they get in Monday, they're going to have hell to raise at the office, wherever they are.
Yeah, I did get a look at a few of those, and there were some pretty interesting names on there. I mean, they had science directors, and they had all kinds of people. Yeah, I mean, so we got that info. We also set up, we got all their publicly listed phone numbers, and on Friday we set up like we just did a mass callings into all of their locations, and
we raised hell with these guys, and rightfully so, because they're raising hell with us.
Mm-hmm.
But they're doing it in a backhanded way. We're doing it out in the public. We're letting them know, look, we're doing this to you guys. These guys do it in a way where they hide everything they're doing, and they use their political influence. They're just a textbook case of crony capitalism, and they're one of the worst out there. And, this march was against Monsanto, but it's also against cronyism in general. It's also against centralization of the food, and that's one of the other things that we were trying to promote is to get people to take the food back into their own hands. And a lot of the people that were in these marches are for labeling food and all that stuff. But a lot of the people are out there trying to promote new ideas for gardening and being sustainable and decentralizing the food supply, bringing about a more democratically distributed food supply. That it's not as hard to be abused if it's decentralized. You know what I mean? So
right.
Yeah, the march just did something way bigger than we ever expected, and it went really big. I was in the San Diego march, and I didn't even want to get involved with the organizing locally because I was so inundated with the global campaign. But with all the stuff that had to be done, I didn't realize how much work organizing was, and I had to jump in there. And it was 4 of us organizing San Diego, and I jumped in and helped out, and then it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, collaborating. Got to meet so many different people. But in San Diego, we had a really nice turnout. We had roughly around 3,000 people.
Wow.
And yeah, and it just got really big. It got to the point, it got so big actually that we couldn't even follow we couldn't even do our schedule the way we wanted to, because we had scheduled our march to end, not end, but we were going to have a break about halfway through it at the farmer's market, because there was a farmer's market pretty close by in downtown San Diego on Saturday, and we were going to stop there for 20 minutes so everyone could take a break and, get some food and something to drink or whatever. But our march had grown so big by the time we got to the farmer's market that we couldn't even go into the farmer's market because it was just, our crowd was just that huge.
Wow.
Because we would have totally inundated the market and no one would have been able to move. And it would have become actually like a safety hazard probably.
Yeah.
So we had to we stopped for 2 minutes, and then we realized that we couldn't even stop the people from going. So we just rolled with it and we just kept going. And then so we just marched through downtown, and then it was really cool because what we did at San Diego was before the march we had a bunch of speakers. I gave a speech, and we had a speaker that we had a professor there that talked about GMOs and genetics. We had a guy that runs a aquaponic business out here in San Diego, and he also teaches classes and stuff. So he talked about some of the innovative techniques to grow on a small space and grow indoors and things like that. But then after the march, what we did is we were able to, one of the local community centers, what happened is one of the girls that helped organize Occupy San Diego actually became part of our organizing committee, and they helped save this lady's community center. And so that lady offered us two free hours at her community center after the march. So we ended the march at the community center, and then we had some more speakers there, some presentations. We passed around. We the whole time we were collecting emails. We must have collected over 1,000 different email addresses. I got 3 clipboards with 6 pads of paper that got filled up with emails.
Wow,
and,
that's great.
So when we got back to the community center, we set up chairs. We got everyone to help and set up chairs, and we just passed the email list through there as well. And then we had the speakers, and we had Jeffrey Smith. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's the president of the Institute for Responsible Technology. He also has he has that new documentary. I can't remember what it's called. I think it might be called Seeds of Destruction. He did that documentary. He's also written a couple books, but he's one of the most renowned experts on GMOs, and he did a speech at the Denver March Against Monsanto, but since they started their march a little earlier, and since he spoke at the beginning of their march, and then we were going to ask him at the end of ours, he was able to do a Skype presentation for our march as well, and he did like 20 minutes, and it came out really well, and for the most part, all the events went off without any problems. There was a couple incidents up in Montreal, I guess because they didn't have a permit, they tried, once the march assembled and they started marching, the cops went in, tried to stop them, or they tried to tell them that they couldn't march, and a lot of the people weren't going to have it, so they just kept going, and then the police, using pepper spray, had to disperse the march. So that was in Montreal. And then I just saw one, I can't remember the city. I'll have to send you the link for the city, but it was in the U.S., but one of the organizers for one of the cities was arrested for using a blowhorn.
Oh my
because
God!
In that city, you have to have a permit to use the blowhorn. So basically, it's like, freedom of speech, but you can't freely speak with a blowhorn. So she got arrested, and all the attendees were just totally pissed at the cops. But other than that, for the most part, everything went on without any problems, as far as I know. I just found out about that organizer getting arrested today, so there may be some more things that come to light later on, but as far as I know, everything went off without a hitch.
Yeah, it looked like it was pretty peaceful from all the photos and the videos that I've seen. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about, I saw there were 2 different interviews, and I don't know if one was maybe a little bit older than the other, that I saw with you on RT. What kind of other press coverage did you get?
Oh, well, the press is like so huge in any action like the March Against Monsanto, and the tactic that we did, that the way we went about it, and it worked really well for us, is what we did is me, I work with the anti-media, and I work with a bunch of journalists, right? So, and then what I did was as soon as we decided to do the march, and as soon as it started picking up traction, and I realized that this thing was going to be serious, I put out a call to all the journalists I know. I was like, hey guys, if you can do me a favor and shoot me an article on this march, here's all the info. If you want to do an interview or whatever, here's the people to contact me or Tammy or Emily or whatever. And all the people that I know that have radio shows, I let them know about it. And so the whole media buzz started off at the grassroots media, the independent journalism. And all this media buzz started picking up, and it started forcing it up into the mainstream to the point where it got as mainstream as InfoWars covering us, Natural News started covering us, and this is before the march. So in a way, by getting this press, you're obviously going to get promotion. You're getting free promotion by these companies. So we had InfoWars covering it, we had Natural News covering it, and then RT started picking it up. So it started becoming more mainstream at that point, and this was probably maybe 3 weeks to a month ago when it started getting a little more mainstream as the event started getting bigger and bigger. But what helped get the event bigger and buzzing was definitely the independent journalists. The citizen journalists is what really made the difference here, and the fact that we already had a lot of connections in the independent journalism community helped out like a millionfold. That it wouldn't have been nearly as successful without having, the media having our backs, at least at the grassroots level, and it just created such a buzz that the mainstream was forced into covering it. And then, so as far as the coverage of the march itself, like on the day of, I was like really surprised. We put out press releases, and we helped set up the local press releases for all the local organizers, and everyone reached out to the press. But I know in San Diego, we had a really surprisingly high level of press there. Almost all the local TV stations were there, the big local newspaper, all the small local newspapers were there. And they actually gave us pretty fair coverage, surprisingly. I think everybody but Fox. I think Fox is the only one that really didn't do a good job. But we all know Fox is in the back pocket of Monsanto. They're the ones that set the precedent for the media being able to lie to people, and it was all based on a Monsanto. It was all based on a Monsanto report that some journalists did that worked for Fox. So Fox obviously has some kind of big conflict there. All those companies do, but the event was just so big that they were forced out to cover it, because if they didn't cover it, they'd lose their credibility. So they had to cover their asses and actually cover a real story for once.
Yeah, I actually saw an article in the LA Times. If you can believe it, I was really surprised.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what the hell is going on? Because when I got home, because our march lasted longer than most of them, because it ended at that community center, and then we had presentations and networking and all that stuff there. So our march was running a lot later than the rest, and then besides that, I was organizing it, so I had to do the cleanup, and I supplied some of the equipment, so I had to clean up the equipment. And then, so after I'm done cleaning up all the equipment, when I go outside of the community center, we still had people outside picketing outside. I was like, dude, that's crazy. There's still protesters out there. It was like an hour later.
Oh,
and so I get on I finally had a chance to get on my phone, and I go to my email, and I had an email from the Associated Press, and they were looking for a total head count, like a global head count, and I wasn't able to answer because I have a crappy phone, and I couldn't get online and ask my network and see if we had a head count yet. But one of our other organizers, Tammy, the founder of the march, I guess they had put together the estimate of 2 million people, and they sent it to the AP, and AP gets republished on a bunch of sites. So AP put out a really good article, and my website, they actually listed my website in the article, which was like totally amazing. So from AP posted it, and then AP, it got picked up by Yahoo, it got picked up by the Huffington Post, it got picked up by USA Today. Wow. I think it got picked up by CBS. So it really did get picked up by all these companies, and it was really surprising.
That's great. See, I don't know. This should be an inspiration to everybody, honestly. Regardless if it makes a big difference in what Monsanto is doing right now. I mean, this should be a wake-up call to everyone that look at how it could start just as a small idea. And you said over 50-plus countries, and that's pretty amazing. Yep. It really is amazing. I'm
pretty sure it was around 60 or more.
Wow.
The ones that just popped up out of nowhere that we didn't know about, like Serbia and I don't know, almost every country in Europe had one.
Jeez.
So it was pretty crazy, and the turnout was huge. I mean, almost every city, unless it was like a real small town, almost every city had over 1,000 people.
Wow.
And the energy was great, and it was just it's such a big, one thing about these events, if you're trying to do something big like this, it's important to have a big tent issue, something like GMOs and Monsanto and specifically. There's such a crony capitalist type of company that you get the libertarians involved, you get the Democrats involved, you get the conservatives involved that are worried about the small mom and pop farmers that are getting sued by Monsanto. So it was such a really big. It was like a really big tent issue, and then the anarchists want to get involved. They're down to help. They're down to organize and get action on anything almost. These guys love getting out on the streets and doing things like that. So it was really cool to have everybody involved, and a lot of our, I've come from like a more libertarian type ideology, and a lot of my friends are anarchists, more of like the socialist type of anarchists, and we're always arguing about ideology, but we worked together on this project, and I was like telling these guys, I was like, look, man, this is proof that we could work together and work for things to be more, work to improve things and work in a positive way, and we don't have to argue. I mean, yeah, we have our differences, but we could put them aside, and we have our own opinions and things, but when it comes to, justice, and when it comes to doing the right thing, we could all work together and do things a lot bigger and a lot better.
Well, let's hope that this is going to be the first of many global events that we get to kick off here, and big middle finger the corporatocracy going on, because I got to tell you, every single day I see something, and it just, they think that they could just roll us over, and it is time to stand up. I mean, just from everything that I've ever seen about Monsanto, there is nothing that is redeeming about that company. And I mean, they're not the only ones. You got BASF, and you got Syngenta, and the U.S. is one of the only countries on the whole planet that doesn't do some sort of labeling. The GMO companies come here. BASF got kicked out of Germany, and they moved their headquarters to Research Triangle Park, North Carolina, because we were more GMO friendly.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, you're going to have your show Wednesday night, so I'm sure you'll probably have more information and numbers tabulated by then. Keep up the great work. I've been posting anything that I've seen where you've been on RT or your website was mentioned. I've been posting on the UCY website because we're really excited for you. And
nice, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you. And this was a great example of ways, like you said, that people could pull together even with differences, because it is such a huge issue. So, all right, Nick.
One of the cool things is, one last thing is that the way that we did it, using the open source techniques and things like that, a lot of the stuff we did, and I'm going to try to talk some more about it in my radio show on Wednesday. A lot of this stuff can be replicated for like any cause, and it can also be scaled down. And we're going to use that same scale in San Diego. We're going to use the same process in San Diego at the local level by setting up open source. Like I was saying, I got over 1,000 emails. No one person wants to enter all those, so we're going to split it up open source so that we could all break it up and add it all on the real-time spreadsheets and stuff like that. So I'll talk more about it on my radio show, but thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, all right, Nick. Take care. Thank you.
Let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.